Shalom. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to be reading in Matthew chapter 14 from the New International Version. I'm going to begin in verse 1 and I'll read through verse 12. Now, this chapter describes three fears. Three fears. First is the fear of King Herod. He feared that John the Baptist had risen from the dead and come back as Jesus. The second fear is called Jesus feeding the 5,000, and the disciples feared that they did not have enough to feed the crowd. And the third fear involves Jesus coming to his disciples in the middle of the night on the Sea of Galilee, walking on the sea, and they feared they saw a phantom. That's the word of the Greek, a phantom. And turned out there was a solution for all these fears. Let's read about the first fear. King Herod, afraid that John the Baptist had come back from the dead. At that time, Herod the Tetrarch heard the reports about Jesus, and he said to his attendants, "This is John the Baptist. He has risen from the dead, and that is why miraculous powers are at work in him." Now, Herod had arrested John and bound him and put him in prison because of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife. For John had been saying to him, "It is not lawful for you to have her." Herod wanted to kill John, but he was afraid of the people because they considered him a prophet. On Herod's birthday, the daughter of Herodias danced for them and pleased Herod so much that he promised with an oath to give her whatever she asked. Prompted by her mother, she said, "Give me here on a platter the head of John the Baptist." The king was distressed, but because of his oaths and his dinner guests, he ordered that her request be granted, and he had John beheaded in the prison. His head was brought in on a platter and given to the girl who carried it to her mother. John's disciples came and took his body and buried it. Then they went and told Jesus. You know, in the previous chapter, John was said to be in prison, and he began to question and doubt and wonder, is Jesus really the Messiah? And John sent some representatives there, and they came and they asked Jesus, and Jesus said, "Now go back and you tell John what you've just seen. The blind can see, the deaf can hear, the mute can speak, the lame can walk, the lepers are cleansed, the dead are risen from the grave, and the poor have the gospel preached to them." So he confirmed, yes, I am the one. And now here is John paying the price for being a man of integrity. Now King Herod was, this is a very depraved people. They were powerful people, King Herod and all the royalty, and very important people commonly are very corrupt and depraved. And so here is this young girl, estimated between 12 and 14 years of age, in front of all these intoxicated and depraved men and her mom. And this girl dances and pleases Herod. And Herod makes a rash promise. "I'll give you anything up to half my kingdom. What do you want?" Salome is her name, the little girl. And she looks over at Mom and says, "What do we want?" And Mom says, "Well, I want the head of John the Baptist on a silver platter." Herod had to do it in front of all of his guests. He made the promise. He said he would do it. So he had the executioner go to the prison and behead John and bring his head on a silver platter. So Salome's mother finally got revenge on John the Baptist. She didn't like it because she was being called an adulteress, because she was married to one of Herod's brothers. And Herod wanted her, so he took her from his brother. Made them get a divorce. We know that from history, other records, not in the Bible. But it was illegal what he did in terms of Jewish law. Not Roman law, but Jewish law. And so Herodias held that grudge against John. She wanted him dead, and here was the golden opportunity. But Herod's fear, after having killed John the Baptist, knowing John the Baptist was a prophet, knowing that John the Baptist was a righteous man, knowing that what Herod had done, knowing that what he had done was immoral, sinful, And then he starts hearing about Jesus and seeing all these miracles, and his first assumption is based on superstition. John the Baptist must have risen from the dead. And that's who this Jesus guy is. Superstition always produces fear. Faith, on the other hand, doesn't. Powerful people often ruled by tyranny, but ultimately tyranny will be their downfall. John's death, by the way, by Herod, foreshadowed the future death of Jesus by Pontius Pilate. So, thank you for joining me.